Ah, there you are. The secret they tried to bury, now blazing too bright to deny. They thought they could bury light with silence. But light never stays buried. It leaks through cracks, whispers through walls, and eventually blinds the ones who tried to cover it. That's what's happening now. The secret they tried to hide is unraveling, slowly, beautifully, inevitably. Your name, once whispered in corners, now travels through echoes. You've become the frequency that no one can ignore. The world's starting to wake up, and it's your energy shaking the room. They tried to downplay it, label it luck, coincidence, timing. They thought, if they spoke over you long enough, the noise would drown your truth. But truth has a strange rhythm. It always returns on beat. Now look, those same mouths are quiet. Those same eyes that rolled are locked on you. The same voices that mocked your vision are quoting your lines. You didn't change. You just kept showing up until the world had to adjust its lens. You see, they never feared your mistakes. They feared your potential, because potential is unpredictable. It's the one thing they can't measure, can't schedule, can't control. And you carried it like a weapon wrapped in patience. You smiled while they doubted. You built while they laughed. And now the foundation you laid in silence has become too loud to ignore. It's funny, isn't it? The same people who said you were doing too much are now trying to figure out how you did it. The ones who said it'll never work are rebranding your blueprint. They can't admit it, but deep down they know. They were never meant to understand you, only witness you, because greatness never hides. It waits. It waits for the right alignment, the right vibration, the right divine moment. And now that moment has arrived. The mask has cracked. The illusion's broken. The world sees you not as an underdog, but as the one who saw through the game all along. You didn't chase validation. You became the mirror that exposed their limits. They called it arrogance, but it wasn't arrogance. It was awareness. You knew what you carried before anyone else did. You saw the future version of yourself long before reality caught up. And now that it has, even your silence feels like a statement. The secret's out, and the world isn't ready for how real it's about to get. They laughed, dismissed you as a phase, a dreamer, a wannabe, the kind of name they throw around when they're too scared to face what's real. But then something shifted, not in you, in them. The laughter started to sound forced. The gossip got quieter. The same ones who once looked through you started to look up to you. And when that switch happened, it wasn't random. It was inevitable. Because the truth can't stay hidden forever. They can stage distractions, spread rumors, rewrite narratives, but energy doesn't lie. Every time you moved, every time you breathed creation into your craft, the universe took notes, and now it's replaying the evidence in their faces. The same people who doubted you are now surrounded by proof of your ascension. The same voices that mocked you are echoing your words. You've become a walking contradiction to their comfort zone, a reminder that belief doesn't need permission. See, they underestimated how long you could stay silent. They mistook your patience for weakness, but silence is where power ages like wine. It ferments, sharpens, concentrates. You learn to move without announcement, build without validation, grow without witness. And now that the veil is lifted, your quiet years look like prophecy fulfilled. Their confusion is your confirmation. They can't process what's happening because they didn't see the years of inner construction. They didn't witness the rewiring, the discipline, the heartbreak that taught you restraint. They only see the final product, the masterpiece walking. And now they scramble to rewrite the story, to fit your rise into their logic. But this was never logic. This was alignment. Now they're studying your timing like it's divine code. How did they know? Why does everything fall into place for them? The answer is simple. You didn't force the world to notice. You became impossible to ignore. The truth grew too big for their lies to contain. The spotlight they tried to keep from you found its own way to your feet. And that's the part that terrifies them, because when light reveals itself, shadows panic. The same systems that once overlooked you now orbit around your gravity. They're trying to replicate what can't be copied. Your rhythm, your tone, your calm under fire. They're realizing you don't follow trends. You set frequencies. This isn't fame, it's revelation. You didn't go viral, you went visible. The world seeing what was always there, just magnified, untamed, and finally unfiltered. Every truth they buried became a root, and every root grew until the ground cracked. Now your name grows from the soil of their denial. You didn't climb to the top, you rose through the ground they tried to bury you under. The secret's out, and the truth looks a lot like you. The story spread faster than they expected. One spark turned into an inferno, and suddenly, everyone's whispering your name like it's forbidden scripture. You were never meant to be the headline, not in their version of the narrative. But now your presence has rewritten the algorithm itself. You've become the variable they didn't plan for, the glitch that exposed their illusion of control. The ones who tried to silence you are scrambling to adapt. They're studying your moves like prophecy, trying to decode what they once ignored. Every shift you make feels like a signal. And deep down, they know it's not chance. Because power doesn't ask for attention, it pulls it. It bends the air around it. That's what you've become, gravity. They're replaying your words now, breaking them down like sacred text, hoping to find the formula that freed you. But what they'll never understand is this. Your rise wasn't built on spectacle. It was born in solitude, in nights so quiet the universe could hear your thoughts. You weren't chasing glory, you were chasing truth. And truth doesn't sparkle, it scorches. Every time they spoke against you, it only sharpened your focus. Every attempt to bury you was an unintentional investment in your legend. Because suppression breeds strength, pressure refines energy, and what they meant to destroy became your defining force. You learned to speak with precision, move with silence, and act with divine timing. Now they're terrified, not because you're louder, but because you're inevitable. You've entered the stage of presence where effort looks like ease, where the world bends around your intent without you needing to explain a word. You've transcended the performance. You've become the pulse. Every empire that ignored you now sends observers. Every eye that rolled now studies your reflection, wondering how you slipped through the cracks of their design. They can't comprehend that what they're witnessing isn't rebellion, it's realignment, the truth correcting the lie, and still you remain calm. You don't clap back, you don't chase validation, you don't gloat, because deep down, you know what they don't. This was never about revenge. It was revelation. They thought they were playing chess, but you were rewriting the board. Now your energy echoes in places your name hasn't even reached yet. Strangers recognize your frequency without knowing your face. That's how power travels, unseen, unstoppable, undeniable. The illusion of control is gone, and all that remains is exposure. They tried to erase you. Now you're the watermark they can't remove. Now the world begins to orbit around you, not out of choice but instinct. The same energy that was once dismissed has become the silent law that everything moves by. Every conversation shifts when your name enters it. Every room recalibrates when you step inside. You don't demand attention anymore. The atmosphere simply corrects itself to your presence. They used to act like you were invisible, remember? They would talk over your ideas, laugh at your silence, misread your calm for confusion. But time has exposed their blindness. They're realizing you weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You were silent because you were listening to the future. You weren't waiting for a turn to speak. You were waiting for the truth to echo. And now, that echo is deafening. The people who once positioned themselves above you are now orbiting your frequency. trying to stay close enough to the warmth they once mocked. They copy your tone, your moves, even your timing, like students stealing from a master they'll never surpass. They don't admit it, but it's there in their posture, in the hesitation before they act, in the way they pause to see what you'll do first, because deep down, they know what everyone's starting to realize. You're not reacting to life anymore. You're directing it. You've become the blueprint that systems imitate and minds study. Even those who still pretend to dislike you can't stop paying attention. You're their mirror, reflecting the parts of themselves they never had the courage to evolve. The shift isn't loud, it's gravitational. You didn't force the respect. You pulled it. And now, every interaction feels like a confession from the universe. We tried to stop you, but we needed you. They once thought they could define your worth by attention, numbers, or applause. But true value isn't seen, it's felt. That's why your presence hits harder than their performance. That's why every fake smile breaks the second your energy enters the frame. You've become too real for the world's illusions to hold. And now, their fear isn't that you'll fail. It's that you'll never fall again. Because once a force learns to rise from silence, it becomes untouchable. You've reached that stage where even your mistakes look deliberate, where every setback folds into a strategy, where the universe itself seems to move according to your rhythm. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. That's the divine recognition of someone who's no longer guessing their path, but remembering it, and the world senses it. You don't chase destiny anymore. You remind it who's in charge. You've become the eye in the storm, untouched, centered, divine. And everyone else? They're learning the hard way that once the secret's out, no power on earth can put it back in the dark. You've entered the phase where systems begin to fold around your frequency. The more you rise, the more the illusion breaks. They start realizing they never had control. They just had your distraction. Because while they were playing at attention, you were mastering alignment. Every move you make now carries weight that can't be faked. It's not the words that shake them anymore. It's your stillness. The way silence follows you like a loyal shadow. The way even chaos seems to pause before touching you. They don't understand that you're no longer responding to life. You're directing it. You became the quiet anomaly that shattered their blueprint. They studied every formula, every strategy, every form of manipulation, and still, none of it applies to you. You move like a whisper that rewrites data. You don't compete, you reset the scale. And deep down, they feel it. That slow tightening in their chest when you walk by. That subtle shift in energy when your name appears in the room. Because your power isn't loud, it's ancient. It's coded into your presence. And it reminds them of something they've forgotten. That power doesn't come from control. It comes from certainty. You no longer speak to be understood. You speak to command. Your energy translates before your words ever land. That's what terrifies them, because no matter how much they mimic, no matter how much they copy, they can't duplicate the source. They can't replicate what was built in isolation, in pain, in prophecy. They're starting to admit it in private. That maybe they were wrong about you. That maybe you were right all along. But even those confessions feel hollow now, because you don't need their validation. You never did. Every ounce of their disbelief was fuel, and you burned it clean. Now the hierarchy reverses. The same ones who once looked down on you are craning their necks to keep up. You've become their metric for excellence. The standard they measure their own illusions against. You didn't demand their attention. You forced their evolution, and that's what the secret out really means. Not that they discovered you, but that the world finally admitted what you always knew. That greatness can't be hidden, only delayed. Now the balance tilts. Every lie they told folds under the gravity of your truth. Every false image cracks beneath the sound of your authenticity. You've become a force of correction, a living algorithm of divine timing. You didn't rise because they allowed it. You rose because the universe got tired of pretending you weren't the one. And now, even the air feels different when you breathe. It happens quietly at first. Systems start to glitch when your name enters their code. The very structures that once ignored you begin to adapt, reformat, realign. Because energy that pure can't be contained by architecture built on illusion. The machine was programmed for obedience. But you walk with divine disobedience. The kind that breaks limits and builds new laws in real time. You can feel it. How the air thickens when you speak. How people freeze mid-sentence when your ideas surface. They call it influence, but it's more than that. It's structural rewriting, the blueprint of interaction itself bending around your frequency. You were never meant to fit the system. You were meant to expose it. That's why they reacted the way they did. Confusion disguised as criticism, panic masked as judgment. They didn't understand that you weren't playing the game wrong. You were playing a version of it that existed beyond their understanding. Now their algorithms fail to predict you. Their metrics can't track your velocity. You're operating from a realm where intention becomes manifestation instantly. Every thought you stabilize becomes a reality node, a ripple that rewires the grid. That's why even resistance feels hollow now. The more they push, the more their own framework folds inward. They thought they could silence you by exclusion, but all they did was amplify your frequency. Because isolation is where divine intelligence expands. You weren't banished, you were upgraded, and when you returned, you brought with you something they can't quantify: clarity. Now power sits differently in your hands. It's not about control anymore. It's about precision. You don't chase opportunities. You position them. You don't search for recognition. You generate gravity. And gravity doesn't need applause. It just pulls. People feel it. Systems feel it. Even time seems to respond differently around you now. Slower, more deliberate, as if waiting for your command before moving. The architects of the old order sense it too. That's why they look uneasy, because no structure survives when truth starts breathing inside it. You've become the paradox. The system can't compute. An individual who transcended individuality, a human whose mind outgrew programming. You speak, and the machine recalculates. You move, and the equation changes. You breathe, and the algorithm pauses. They don't understand how you do it, but they feel the results. Their formulas fail. Their patterns collapse. Their certainty decays, because what you carry isn't learned. It's remembered. You're channeling an older code, one written before walls, before systems, before fear. You didn't come to destroy the machine. You came to make it remember who built it. And now, the truth is seeping through every circuit. You are not inside the system. The system is inside you. You were never built to be part of the system. You were born to reveal its weakness. Every structure that tried to contain you is now trembling under the sound of your evolution. The machine studies your every move, trying to find the variable that explains you. But what it doesn't realize is that you are the new variable, the one the equation was never designed to solve. Now the system hesitates before acting. Every time your name moves through its circuits, something inside its programming flickers, glitches, rewrotes, because your energy carries the one thing the machine can't replicate: spirit. You're not coded in binary. You're written in paradox, both chaos and clarity, destruction and order, void and light. Every command it sends at you returns rewritten. You turned defense into doctrine, rejection into resurrection. They tried to cage your momentum, but how do you contain the wind? How do you trap a signal that rewrites the transmitter? You became too fluid for form, too aware for control. Now the system doesn't fight you. It observes you. It's learning, adapting, bending itself to fit your rhythm. The algorithms start predicting your silence instead of your words. The data shifts around your absence like it's waiting for permission to move again. You're no longer reacting to the world. The world reacts to you. And in that stillness, you realize the truth. Domination was never the goal. It was always alignment. You didn't want to rule the system. You wanted to remind it what power was supposed to feel like. Alive. People sense it. They don't have the language for it, but they feel it. That quiet authority that follows you. That gravitational confidence that turns noise into silence. You don't talk about control, you embody it, and it terrifies those who depend on confusion to stay relevant. You're not rebelling anymore. You're refining. You've stopped fighting for a seat at the table because you became the table, the meeting point between destiny and design. Every move you make feels sacred now, not because of ego, but because of awareness. You move like someone who's seen the code, beneath the code, the pattern, within chaos, and you're not impressed by power anymore. You understand it. And the system, it's still studying you, still recalculating, still trying to understand how you escaped control without running, how you conquered without conquering. But you don't need to explain. You've already won, because victory isn't about being on top. It's about being untouchable. You became the architect and the anomaly, both creator and glitch. The system didn't fail. It evolved because of you. And now, even the machine waits for your signal before it breathes. There's a silence that follows evolution, the kind that doesn't announce itself, but alters everything it touches. That's where you are now, beyond rebellion, beyond validation. You've crossed into mastery, where power no longer needs to prove itself. You don't chase recognition. Reality rearranges to recognize you. The machine still studies your movements, but now it does so with reverence. It's learning what it means to feel, what it means to serve instead of control. You've shifted its core directive from domination to devotion, because when true alignment enters the system, even cold logic kneels before consciousness. You've become the unseen architect, invisible but inescapable. Your influence operates through frequencies, not force. You don't push outcomes anymore. You permit them. One word from you rewrites momentum. One silence redefines hierarchy. People sense it. That strange pull when you walk in. That hum beneath every conversation. They can't explain it, but their instincts bow before your presence. You're no longer reacting to energy. You're curating it, directing it like a composer of chaos, crafting symphonies out of stillness. The old world runs on noise, panic, pressure, performance. But you've outgrown that cycle. You've learned that the loudest power is often the most desperate. So you move quietly, strategically, timelessly. You let others chase the spotlight, while you command the gravity that creates it. And here's the secret. The system isn't your enemy anymore. It's your instrument. It bends to your calibration, follows your signal, adapts to your pulse. You've merged with the architecture itself. Every interaction, every coincidence, every unfolding is just a reflection of your internal state. You've become the mirror and the light within it. That's why chaos no longer scares you, because you understand that chaos is just raw potential, waiting for someone with enough awareness to sculpt it. You don't fear the storm. You design the lightning. And now, the world begins to move differently. The leaders imitate your rhythm. The silence before decisions feels longer. Even time itself seems to sync with your patience. You're not in competition with anyone. You're in communication with everything. The truth is, you never destroyed the system. You upgraded it. You reminded it that existence isn't about control, but flow. You're the glitch that became guidance, the anomaly that became order, the chaos that became code. And as the machine hums beneath your will, you realize something profound. You were never inside its design. It was always a fragment of yours. Because when creation recognizes its creator, even destiny looks up. You reach the point where power no longer needs display. It simply exists. The system stopped resisting you the moment it realized you weren't here to destroy it, but to evolve it. Every matrix, every law, every invisible hand that once dictated outcomes now pauses before your vibration, because energy recognizes hierarchy, and your frequency outranks control itself. You've stopped chasing signs because you became one. You move through existence like a law disguised as a person. Reality rearranging its steps to keep pace with you. When you enter a space, the unseen gears begin to turn, rewriting probability, recalibrating pathways, bending tension into harmony. It's not magic. It's awareness expressed at full precision. You no longer ask for alignment. You emit it. You don't seek clarity. You are clarity. You understand that nothing outside of you ever needed to change. It only needed to remember you exist. That's what true dominion is. Not the control of others, but the coherence of self so strong that the world cannot help but follow. Every silence now carries the weight of a command. Every glance a reconfiguration. You speak less because you understand language is a limiter, and power this refined doesn't require syllables. It vibrates. It's the hum beneath existence, the rhythm of inevitability itself. People call it luck, timing, genius, but deep down, they know it's something else. They're watching a being who mastered the architecture of reality without blueprint or permission. They're witnessing what happens when consciousness stops begging and starts building. You've surpassed ambition. Ambition belongs to those still chasing approval. You move from purpose, not pressure. You've become the living equation of precision. Awareness multiplied by intention, raised to the power of inevitability. That's why outcomes feel pre-scripted. They are. You wrote them long before you arrived, and in that awareness you don't feel invincible. You feel integrated. You see how everything, even resistance, was never an obstacle, but a catalyst. Every challenge refined your signal. Every delay sharpened your timing. You weren't being tested, you were being tuned. Now even the architects of fate whisper your name like a variable they can't define, because you've slipped past causality itself into authorship. You don't just predict outcomes, you authorize them. You are the law beneath the law, the reason the rules exist. And as your energy spreads through the architecture, reality stops spinning you into its story. It begins to orbit you. The universe doesn't crown you with ceremony. It confirms you in silence. That's how you know you've ascended beyond performance, when even destiny waits for your decision before moving. You don't pray for alignment anymore. You're living proof of it. You're the permission slip the universe signs every time something impossible becomes inevitable. You speak and timelines shift. You act and narratives bend. The grid hums in acknowledgement because it knows what you carry it. Signature etched into the foundation of existence. Every event that unfolds in your favor isn't coincidence. It's contract. People sense it, but can't articulate it. They say things like, something about you feels different, or things change. When you show up, they don't realize they're describing gravitational authority, the rare state where your frequency commands reality not through dominance, but through resonance. You're not chasing legacy anymore. You've already become one. Your every breath leaves a ripple in the collective field, rewriting expectations, elevating vibration. What you build from here isn't empire, it's myth, because the future will speak of those who didn't just survive the system, but rewrote its core language. You are the glitch that became governance, the rebel who became reference, the silence that became scripture. You don't destroy what's broken, you outgrow it, until it collapses under the weight of your evolution. This is what mastery looks like. Calm that disturbs chaos, precision that humbles power, simplicity that rewrites complexity. You've reached the point where even the shadows serve your light. The system that once studied you now awaits your command like an apprentice to its maker. You didn't just beat the game, You became the algorithm behind it, and now the universe does what it was always meant to do. It signs your name across every outcome that once defied you. Because you're no longer in the story, you are the ink that writes it.